Hi there, Tranlo here. This is going to be a overview video for the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Secrets of Magic product, which has just been released today on April the 5th. This is meant as a high-level overview. I'm not going to go into great depth in any particular subject. More information can be found in other videos or on the Fantasy Grounds forums. So let's just do a quick run through of the product. So the Secrets of Magic has various data to do with primarily magical casters and a couple of new classes. There's a Magus and there's a Summoner, and I'll delve into a little bit more information about this later on in the video, particularly around the Summoner, because a lot of that data kind of relates to the Magus as well. There's a few arcane backgrounds as well that you can now select for your characters. There's lots and lots of feats based off the number of pages here, probably at least 300 are actually available within here. Yeah, probably closer to 400 feats. Lots and lots of various images throughout the product. Some magic items that are available. Quite a lot of new spells as well, probably close to 300 or 400 there, categorized into their various arcane lists with a bit more information and what traits are relevant to those individual spells, what actions they take, what level they are, and everything else. And there's just a few new traits that are actually relevant to the two new classes within this product. And of course there's a reference manual which gives a complete presentation of the whole product, similar to how it's presented in the actual product itself. So there's various essentials of magic, the two new classes, the Magus and the Summoner, new spells, new magic items, and then various different unlimited magic, various options there. Lots of great artwork throughout, details of the various new spells that are available, giving you an overview of roughly what they do and whether they can be heightened or not. And of course the two new character classes, the Magus and the Summoner. So what I'm going to do is I'm very quickly going to run through creating a Summoner. I do have a more detailed video on this that goes into a lot more depth, because I just want to concentrate on the things that are new, the things that are relevant to the Summoner and to a lesser extent to the Magus. So I've just got the class entry linked down there. If I also just have a look at the summary within the classes entry, we just see that charisma is the key ability. So I'm going to very quickly create a character that has charisma as the key ability. So I'm just going to come here. I'm going to, as usual, do everything as much as you can in the charge end tracker, follow the information, go through. I'm just going to make a gnome because they have charisma. Like I say, I'm just going to very quickly go through this. Add a background with charisma and maybe constitution, and now when I select my Summoner, as usual, it's going to add in the various pieces of information, such as new training, telling you to do new skills, giving you your money and various proficiencies and things like that. We can select our Eidolon in here. I'm just going to do a construct, and it gives you an option which construct do you want, a scout construct or a warrior construct, which determines their abilities from there. Now just pay attention here, because this is a bit of new functionality where when we're actually going to create an Eidolon PC when we select our warrior construct here. So here you go, an Eidolon's being created. It's actually being created with, would have been so and so's Eidolon, but we didn't actually have a name for our character. Oops, forgot to do that. And you can see if you compare the Eidolon character sheet with the standard PC character sheet. So notice it's of type Eidolon, and that means that you don't get the usual ancestry background class prompts that you do for a standard PC. You can enter and change your ability scores if you want within here, and they will be reflected in the Eidolon here. Notice also that there's no ancestry or background up here, because again they're not relevant to an Eidolon themselves. So that's been created. What it does is it syncs the hit points together, because Eidolons and summoners share a pool of hit points. It also syncs the proficiencies for the skills together. So when the base PC changes their proficiency of skills, they will actually sync through there as well. Just lore skills need to be created manually initially. So just here, I'm going to do lore, just forest, and create a forest lore here, and you'll notice that syncs through to the base character. You only have to do that once, and the synchronization will go through. We finish our character with selecting our final boosts, and that's that character created, other than going through and doing spells and everything else. Notice that it says cannot find summoner class kit in the campaign data. Paizo didn't provide class kits for the Magus or the Summoner, so maybe if you just want to go for something, one of the class kits from the core rules or something, perhaps a Sorcerer class kit might be appropriate. You could just add a Sorcerer class kit to your PC if you wanted to, something like that. Anyway, that just tells you there that it couldn't find one because they weren't actually created. So spells. Now this is the same for a Magus and a Summoner. Notice that I'll go down to the spell repertoire. Notice that at level 5 they lose their first level spells. They get 2 second, 2 third. At level 7 they lose the second level spells and they get 2 fourth. At level 9 they lose the third level and they get 2 fifth. Basically both a Summoner and a Magus, they only ever have a maximum of 4 spell slots available in 2 different spell levels, plus their 5 cantrips. So that's programmed into the rule set with kind of a way of allowing you to manually organize your spells as you level up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just very quickly, my Summoner, they had an arcane arcane magical tradition spell class set up because of the warrior construct. A construct is arcane. And I'm just going to very, very quickly just add some spells in here. I really, just some arcane spells. We have 5 cantrips. At first level we have 1 first level spell. It doesn't really matter what it's going to be. As I level this character up, so go to level 2, notice we got 5 cantrips, 1 first level spell. At level 1 we now can cast 2 first level spells. So actually, sorry, it's at first level they would have had 2 first level spells but could only cast 1 of them. Then as we go up to 3rd level, we then get a 2nd level spells. We can get 2 2nd level spells. Sorry, I'm just going through this a little bit quickly, but just want to kind of show you what happens when we hit level 5. Level 4, we now have 2 slots, so it's 2 and 2. And now when we hit level 5, it's going to prompt us to do our free boosts at level 5. Notice that in the spell class we're now 0 spell slots for level 1, and it says cannot cast at this level. So normally you just essentially move those up. to another level, so you still have them available, and then perhaps, you know, sorry, you copy them, you don't move them. So you just need to just go in and to delete the old ones at level 1, and then you can work out which spells you want to keep, because you get 2 new 3rd level spells, and so you have to remove 2 spells from what you're actually doing. To just make sure that you have 5 spells, and this is all detailed in the actual the spell repertoire information for the class. This would be exactly the same for the mages. And again, when we get to level 7, you see level 2, cannot cast spells at these levels. You'd copy your spells down, which ones you decide to keep. So it's a little bit of a manual process, but normally, you know, in the prior versions of Fantasy Ground, as soon as you went to 0, you'd lose access to all of those spells. But now for these specific ones, you still have them available, so you can copy them and you know, decide to which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to remove. And finally, for the Eidolon, that currently there are some manual entries that need to be done. Just to set up your Eidolon, these will be automated a bit more in future releases. The construct Eidolon that was selected has various things. Tradition Arcane, that was used when your spell class was created. Medium, so size medium for the construct. They do actually need to have traits of astral construct Eidolon. Double click on those to get some information about those. Yeah, the Eidolon didn't show up because I didn't spell it right. There you go. Suggested attacks bludgeoning. So this is where you decide on what kind of attack you actually have for your Eidolon. Now normally Eidolons, you can select what your primary attack does. It does 1d8 damage and it has disarm, non-lethal, shove or trip. It does 1d6 damage with a fatal d10, 1d6 damage, force and sweep. So there's kind of a few little options you can do here with your primary attack. It suggests you have fist bludgeoning, but it's not the standard fist that you'd actually have. It would be more of a actual modified fist. So what you could do for your characters, I'm going to go through this very, very quickly, is just add a fist to your character, but then edit the actual damage, the weapon entry here. So say I'm just going to go with 1d8 damage and disarm. So it has the disarm trait. I'll clear the current 1d4 damage. I'll add 1d10, the 1d8 on there. It's just bludgeoning. It's not bludgeoning. It's not non-lethal, and so that should be, you know, absolutely fine for that one. We'd do that. There's various things we can add. You know, senses of dark vision, languages, the speed. You need to set the defense and attack proficiencies, which then get read by the fist that you've entered there. You need to set the proficiencies. You know, it's expert in fortitude and will, and trained in reflex. You just do this, like I say, in future this will be most of this will be auto done, and set the speed. What was it? There was dark vision as senses, and then just pay attention to any additional kind of entries that are down here. Sorry, the AC currently isn't done, so it's AC +3 with a +2 with a dex cap of 3. And that's your Eidolon pretty much set up and ready to go. You see, it's using the unarmored proficiencies there and your various attack proficiencies for the weapon that you set up. So now I'm just going to show some of the functionality that's related to combat and the combat tracker. These are two other summoners, a summoner and Eidolon that I've created. And just to show you, when a summoner's Eidolon is created, it is linked to the summoner in an area known as linked PCs. This will be expanded in future to allow linking of companions and familiars as well, as will the PC sheets will have companions and familiars down here as well. At the moment, this is linking the Eidolon, and it shows that initiative will be shared. So what we have is when initiative is rolled, it's going to be applied to both the summoner and the summoner's Eidolon, so they have the same initiative because they do share the initiative and share actions and things on there. If we didn't want that to happen, wouldn't be strictly rules as written, you could remove that initiative check mark there, and then the initiative wouldn't be synchronized. Notice summoner test got 30 there. The Eidolon would have to roll their own initiative as well. Only got one more, but there you go. So essentially, that's just a little bit of functionality allowing you to determine if the initiative is synchronized for the summoner and the Eidolon. So additionally, as mentioned earlier, Eidolons and summoners share they have the same actual hit point pool, and you'll notice that's shown here. They have the same hit points. Notice that the Eidolon doesn't have the button that shows the additional hit points because it basically has the same hit points. And if you do any wounds to the summoner, so I'll just type in 5 wounds there, it's applied to the Eidolon, and if you do any wounds to the Eidolon, they're applied to the summoner, and vice versa. And the same for temporary hit points, wounded conditions, dying conditions, they move across. Additionally, when a summoner and an Eidolon both suffer damage at the same time, the highest amount of damage is applied to the summoner and the Eidolon. So this is important when they're getting hit with effects and they do a basic save, and one of them might have a better save than the other. So essentially the worst damage will be applied out of those. I'll just go through a couple of scenarios here. First, I've got a Kobold Dragon Mage who's very simple. He's just doing a simple attack. He's going to cast a spell, Electric Arc. I'm just going to trigger the saves at this point in time. So the summoner Eidolon succeeded, but the summoner themselves had a critical failure. So when we apply the damage from the Kobold Dragon Mage, it's only a first level cantrip, so it's not much, but it does actually do double damage. So he rolled a 4. And although 2 would have been applied normally to the Eidolon because it had a success, the summoner's test gets 8, so it gets double based off the critical failure. And we see that 8 damage is applied to each of those based off that saving throw and the worst effect. If, say, the Dragon Mage just attacked the Eidolon, and maybe did some damage to it as part of a melee attack, the damage will be applied to the Eidolon, but then also applied to the summoner. So notice that we have 8 wounds at the moment. Our Kobold Dragon Mage does 1 damage to them, so both of them take 1 damage, even though it only did it to the Eidolon. It's a shared pool, so it applies the damage automatically to the summoner as well. Another example could be just similar. There's a young white dragon, and they have their breath weapon. So they trigger their breath weapon, which is a basic save. Okay, the Eidolon and summoner, they both have a failure, so I'm just going to re-roll that until they get a different result there. No, they're both the same, unfortunately, because they've got very similar bonuses there. So the Eidolon has a critical failure, and the Summoner has a failure. So when we roll the damage, it's going to work out the worst of those from that. So we see coming down here, shared damage 24 to Summoner test. So this is just telling you what the damage was rolled against the Summoner. It just says it's not applied at this part. The shared damage is 54 for the Eidolon. It's not applied just at that part, but then at the end of the damage, we work out what was the most that should have been applied to the Eidolon or the Summoner, and we apply that damage there. So we add 54 damage to each of them. We had 9 wounds before, so we add 54 damage to that. So that's all been applied correctly there. That's pretty much it for the functionality that's there at the moment. On release, the shared healing isn't quite there yet, but it will be very, very soon. So similarly, if there's 2 healings cast on the Summoner and the Eidolon, if there's a healing cast on the Summoner and the Eidolon, they share the best amount of healing from that. So that's pretty much it. The rest of the product is very similar to previous products released, but particularly for the Summoner and the Eidolon and the kind of like the removal of lower level spell slots, that's new to this, and it did require quite a lot of significant coding in the product. So hope this introduction has given you a lot of the information that you need and answered a lot of your questions. As I mentioned, there are more detailed videos for character creation, and also more information available on the Fantasy Grounds forums, where you can also ask questions. Thanks for watching.